Are you ready? Okay. Hello, my name is Madeline Rupard. I'm an assistant professor here at Brigham Young University in the Department of Art. I teach advanced painting classes, a studio class, freshman seminar, and a visiting artist lecture series at BYU. My paintings are landscape paintings about the modern American landscape, including sometimes the mundane or ordinary in the more sublime landscape that we live in here in Utah. I always felt very influenced by moods and atmospheres, the feeling of a space, the emotions that a landscape and its color combinations, its sensory details evoke in us. I'm most moved by paintings and movies and books that do that. I chose this piece, Desert Grandeur by Mabel Pearl Fraser. I was drawn to this piece immediately before I knew that the artist was a woman, but I was especially interested in her as someone who's depicting the landscape at a time when the arts are dominated mostly by men. She grew up in Beaver, Utah. She ended up saving enough money to go study in New York and studied in Italy for about a year, and then came back to Utah where she taught at the University of Utah and different high schools in the area. I was moved by the way she moved from this cornflower blue down to this neon, almost like a little bit of chartreuse in that green, down to these pastels with beautiful mauves and lavenders and indigos. It's just a very ethereal painting. It has these colors that I'm so drawn to. They're the same colors you often see in Renaissance paintings. Sistine Chapel has a lot of these colors in it. That's one of the reasons that it comes off as so beautiful and ethereal. And I feel like there's something about this painting where you can almost smell the sagebrush. Maybe it's the scale where it kind of feels like if you're to stand right in front of it, you have your whole field of vision covered. It feels very immersive in that way. She's not so concerned with getting all the details perfect. She wants to give you the sense and memory of that space through color and give you the impression of color and a place and time and space rather than trying to perfectly recreate it like a photo would. She was born in the late 1800s, was making paintings through the early 20th century. The camera was already pretty normal and we were using that quite a bit at that time. For her to decide to allow some of the painterliness to come through is really appealing to me as a painter who's working in a time that's saturated with cameras. So Mabel was making this painting in 1940, which is just about the time that abstract expressionism came on the scene in New York. And you can even see in her marks that she has this very lovely sense of the paint, and it kind of feels almost modern. We're creeping into that era when people were starting to allow the paint to show itself. And I see a lot of artists working this way now too. They allow the facture of the paint to show up, as in like you can see the brush marks, you can see the kind of movement. It's not trying to disguise the paint, it's embracing it and its material and saying, I am a painting. I love the Sol LeWitt quote, a painting of a woman is not a real woman, but a painting of a line is a real line. She's kind of playing with that conceptual dance between what is the point of a painting and what is the point of representation. Feel that in the painting as she's very much in love with the material. You see this color change and shift as it gets closer to us. Further away, it's a bit more dreamy and lighter. As it gets closer, some of those earthy tones start to get in. We start to see it more clearly. Atmospheric perspective tends to make things look a little bit more misty and clear off. Even far off, you'll see kind of a little bit of a blue tint on the mountains. And this is like a Renaissance technique to add a little bit more of a light blue to things to make them feel far away. And I love how she even pushes it and adds like this gorgeous neon green in the mountains to make things feel atmospheric and distant from us. My work is really interested in those subtle shifts in the sky. As much as my work is about space and representation, it's also about surfaces and color and sky. I find that the sky and the way that it changes from day to day is like this marvelous thing that you can always expect something new from, especially when the clouds change shape. And here in Utah, we have this gorgeous golden light that we see for so much longer than on the East Coast because we have the mountains to be reflected against. Some of the work that I make is interested in that light catching on to these grandiose ancient structures, as well as just those shifts in the evening skies against the mundanity of our life. Some of the work I have on display right now in New York at Room 57 Gallery has these gorgeous orange, purplish sunsets against the kind of gritty city. So the tertiary, the earthy, people walking around and moving their car for street cleaning or going to the grocery store against this sublime time landscape. That's something that I'm really interested in. I think good paintings are made of good contradictions. I feel that in this one where you have this serenity up here and then you have mix and muddle objects and forms in the earth. There's some oxygen and yet we feel kind of tied to the earth. We feel like we're there in the desert with Mabel. Consider a painting not something to be figured out or worked out, but to be felt. It's a feeling. Stand in front of this and let it wash over you. Take in a deep breath. This is a piece that offers a lot of meditation and tranquility. I also invite you to come see this show, which is full of a lot of windows into different times and spaces, and you can consider them little escapes that you can go on without having to drive anywhere. There's so much beautiful sense of color and light in this show, and I think landscape there's a reason that it's one of the oldest subject matters of art history, and I think you'll really enjoy it.